So I'm not like dressed up or anything for this occasion. So welcome everybody. We are live now. We're on Clubhouse. We got a bunch of people on Clubhouse with us. We're also streaming live now on YouTube, on X, and in our Facebook real estate community. What's up, realtors? All right. So Anna, since you're the only person in the conversation right now, I appreciate you coming up. Everybody else, love to get you guys involved. Just raise your hands. I said this is an absolute game changer for the industry, and there's still people telling me it's not. What are your thoughts on that, Anna? Is this not a game?
I guess I'd have to understand more from your perspective. What do you mean by it being a game changer? What about it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's what. So I'll tell you my perspective, and then, perhaps you can tell me if you feel like I'm wrong or not. So it changes. And when I think of a game changer, I think of disruption. Makes sense. So it's disruptive to the industry. There's things have been done a certain way for a long time. There's a lot of agents that went out there, relied on buyer compensation to earn a living, to get paid, and now that's going to be off the MLS. Like that's a change. That's a huge change, right?
Yes.
That's one example.
And quite honestly, you and I both know realtors who you change a form on them, and that's enough to send them in a tizzy. So sure, that would certainly be enough to disrupt. But just to be clear, just because it's not in the MLS does not mean that a seller isn't compensating or an agent isn't negotiating that, right? It's just simply that it's not available information in the MLS for you to know with certainty that you are or are not being compensated and how much.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. Yep. You're right. So that's one area. So no MLS compensation on, and as you know, and I know, and a lot of us in this room right now know, there's going to be some buyers that are going to say, well, there's going to be some sellers that are going to say, I don't want to pay a listing agent. And by the way, I'm sorry, a buyer's agent. I've been dealing with that for 21 years when I was selling real estate, right? There's people say, the question is well, why do we have to pay another agent, right? Because you want them to bring the clients, right? That was kind of the standard. That was the standard, yeah. But it's kind of changing. And then you're going to have some buyers that are going to say, well, sorry. I mean, if the seller's not willing to pay me, then I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do, right? I can't help you. So again, that's why I'm saying it's extremely disruptive. And then the other part of it is Zillow. What about the people that rely on Zillow for their business? To me, that's one of the biggest disruptions. And I'm kind of happy for that one, to be honest with you, because I'm not a huge fan of Zillow. So I and so it's
we meet very few agents, I think, who are actually big fans and or who actually have a great ROI on Zillow leads. There are a few, right? But they're heavily invested financially and time on their Zillow leads, and they do quite well. But for the majority of us, I don't think this lawsuit made any major change with how we feel about Zillow leads, right? Who wants buyer leads? Do you know anyone who wants buyer leads? I don't.
Come on, you and I. This is going to be a boring conversation because we think the same, right?
Don't you? It's one of those days. The moon and the sun must align. We don't usually agree on everything, David. This is not fun and entertainment for the audience.
Well, if you think about it, it's because I don't know how many homes you were selling. My team, we were selling 90, 120, 95. Because we focused on listings, right? And so even myself, I would average 40 houses a year myself, not even including my team, right? So, but you can only do that when you really, well, I shouldn't say that. You could probably still do, I don't know if you could do that with buyers. I guess you could, but yeah, but we focused on listings.
I don't want to try that to let you know, but I personally was doing about 50 listings a year aside from what my team was doing. And only exclusively worked with sellers for some years. I stopped that. I actually no longer have a team. I'm not sure if we had that conversation intentionally, yet I do have mentees, and I have, of course, agents in my organization that I still defer to and refer leads to, just simply not as a structured team. So now I do work with buyers again, and I do love it. I do enjoy it. However, very limited. I will not take on ever, never more than 5 buyers at a time. And I generally run around with like actively working. They need a house right now. They are ready to rock, right? Money's in place, all the things, but for a house, generally never more than 3.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Anna, I know there's been times where, back in the day, I would literally, I think the most listings we ever took was 27 in 1 month as a team. And even with 27 listings, maybe 20, 15, 20 active, I could literally go to the beach and spend a weekend up in the beach with my girlfriend, my family. Well, back then my girlfriend, now my
I was
wife.
gonna say,
Now my
how did your
wife.
wife feel
I know.
about you
It's
taking your
funny.
girlfriends to
Well,
the
you
beach?
know why? Because I'm thinking back to those days when it was V and I, right? And we would go to the beach. We would take off for the weekend, and we were both in real estate together, but we'd take off. And she would have all her clients were buyers, and she'd be out of her mind. And people be calling her, and she'd be trying to set up referrals and other agents to show. And me, I'd just be chilling,
I agree. I mean,
yeah.
listing only, yes. Because here's the thing, though, and does that mean that we do less? No.
No.
You look at it as like any industry or like a builder, right? So the builder or the architect or, the investor on this building plan or whatever, those guys, they're consulting, they're orchestrating, right? They're doing like the bigger thinking things, if you will, or whatever. They don't necessarily have to leave the house to do their job. But then there's the site agent, or then there's the contractors, and there's the landscapers, right? They're out there in the, high heat, whatever, doing the thing 12 hours, like crazy hard work. But no one thinks that the landscapers make it as much as the investor or the builder is, right? Like it's kind of the same thing. You're doing important work and you're doing intentional work, but you're not actively physically in front of someone having to work. So I agree with you on the listing side. You don't have to be,
Hey, you know what? I've got a great question here from Marcus Pursley here on the live stream. Marcus, you're welcome to come on, jump in the conversation if you want. I love this question, man. I'm going to drop the link there. You're welcome to click that link. We'll bring you in to the live stream if you like. I see Alicia just popped up. Let me drop Marcus's question out there and see what you guys think. It says, David, I would like to pose this question to you. How soon before agents sued NAR for failure to protect the interest of realtors? I know a few that are pissed that NAR didn't stand up for them. Ooh, I like that question, Marcus. That's a good question. So what are your thoughts, anybody, on that question? Marcus is at work, so he can't come into the stream. But what are you guys' thoughts on that question? Anybody welcome to come up, by the way. Raise your hand if you're on my live stream. You guys can see in the chat. You can speak in the chat. You can come up if you want. The more the merrier. All right. What are your thoughts on that question, Anna? And then we'll drop it over to Alicia. What do you guys think?
You went and added the R at the end of my name again, didn't you? Just had to.
Did I? Sorry.
Yeah.
Anna? No.
Am I pissed? Am I a member of the association? Yes, I'm also a board member here locally for PAR, Pennsylvania Association of Realtor. I feel like the ones who are pissed generally aren't even volunteering for their board, don't even really know what's going on. That's my personal opinion.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Did you say Marcus doesn't know what's going on? Is that what you're saying?
It's possible. It's possible.
Oh, no.
I'm sure Marcus is a cool dude, but
sorry about that.
I wouldn't know for certain. I'm just saying, again, more often than not, and in the last 72 hours since this news hit and everything, everyone's got all their opinions and all the things that are going to happen, yet many haven't even like really gotten deep into what actually happened in the first place, what's going on now, and what the outcome is. People are saying things like, well, if the commission isn't going to be in the commission field, we'll just put it in the notes field. Or no, it's off MLS, meaning don't use the MLS to convey whether there is or isn't compensation cooperation, right? Like,
Yeah.
I find it funny. So I don't know why I would waste my time suing anyone. I got my head down, doing my job, serving my clients, and not really concerned about all the nonsense.
So here's what I heard this morning. Well, I kind of I read the email a few times that went out from NAR, and it looks like what's going to happen is the 413 million is going to be dispersed throughout all the not competing, but the MLSs that are part of NAR. Is my understanding? I could be wrong on this, so we'll probably find out more this week, right? But this is how it's going to be paid by every person that subscribes to the MLS. The realtors, right? Realtors are subscribed to MLS. Will pay a percentage. Is that what that's what I believe is happening? Again,
Well,
I'm not going to say
association.
100%, but that's
Yeah,
what.
our association dues are going to go up. They didn't say by how much, but that's the expectation. Now, I'm saying all that also to say, do I find great value in our association? I mean, are there some things? Sure, yeah, absolutely. But is it like the Holy Grail? Are there areas that are not members and do fine? They have other types of associations, like New York City has REBNY. I don't know that they're the end all be all, but I also don't know that they're the ones that I'm mad at. I'm actually not mad at anyone. And my process and the way that I operate, whether with my buyers or my sellers, based on this recent occurrence, the lawsuit, the settlement, and all, has not changed the way that I operate, not even a little bit.
100%. I mean, so, and since must have been 2009. We got some training from somebody that it helped us to explain the listings to the seller, and because we've always used what was called a variable rate contract. It's called variable rate, meaning, and we always use this. This was a game changer. And there's other companies that wouldn't let their agents use it. Those are the companies, and like the blue company with like the blue and white colors, and that's one, right? Like they're not so, but we always use that, and because of that, we would explain to the seller how the commission was structured. Meaning, if we sell the house ourselves, right? And now this is a great tip for a lot of people listening now that say, hey, moving forward, how should I do this? Like, explain to the sellers that, hey, we get, and I'm going to use the word 3% for what we do. Okay. And I'm not saying that's what you have to do, but I'm saying that's what we were doing.
Use X. Yeah. But you should use X, just FYI.
Yeah, I know. Or apples or whatever the stuff they said, right?
Vegetables are required for the conversation.
Apple or it's all the same,
no fruits,
right?
No vegetables, just it. X, because we're not.
Okay, got it. 3X. So and that's how we would explain
David, it. Not 3X, X commission, whatever it is.
X, got it. I thought you were saying 3 times. We're really stepping it up now, Anna. All right, good. Yeah, I get it. So X commission, we get X, okay. But you notice CNN threw it out there. Did you see CNN's big thing that they ran? It said right on the big old thing, 6% commissions are gone. How come they can say 6? But we can't.
Because they're not bound by the code of ethics.
Oh, got it. Okay, well, technically, I'm not a member right now because my license is not active status, because that's all I do is teach agents and show agents how to go out there and take more listings and make money right now. However, I'm literally considering, I was talking to my wife about it yesterday. I think I may reactivate my license this week and just go to town. Seems fun. Seems like good times to be in real estate, right? What do you think? Well, actually, no, before I go too far off, I want to get back to Marcus's question, because I like the question. So here's what I'll throw out there, and I want to hear, Alicia might have some thoughts on this as well. Alicia. So if they didn't settle this, okay, they were looking at potentially multi-billion dollars. Like, do you guys understand that? Like, these were class action lawsuits popping up everywhere, all over the country. Like, so I wasn't in, obviously I'm not in those conversations. Nobody in this room, I'm guessing, are in those conversations unless we have a spy in here. But I would have to imagine that they knew some stuff that we didn't know, and they're like, this is the best case scenario. What are your thoughts on that, Alicia?
Yeah, so I just keep thinking that I can't like Anna anymore. And then I come in and I hear her speak, and I agree with so much of what she has to say. First of all, regarding people not knowing what's going on, this is a problem that I live with every day, right? Serving on a board of education, there's things that are happening, and there's laws that prevent us from disclosing information to the public. So while you try to be transparent, there's a lot of things that you just can't share. But the other thing is that we don't have this kind of attitude towards other things like our car insurance and everything that goes up because of what somebody else did. Right? There's more crashes on the road, and our insurance goes up, and it goes up based on the region that we live in, for example. And we're not looking to go and sue all the insurance companies because our rates went up. They're not even telling us that that's why. I think that NAR is being as transparent as they can be. And when people are like, I just want to sue, and they're not giving me, everything that I think they should be, or they're not protecting me enough, you need to rethink what your relationship is with that organization. In no position in life, in real estate, or in any other career should you be depending solely on someone else doing for you, or being the one that's going to protect you. If you are doing the right thing and you are staying up to date with those changes, you will adjust, and you're not going to have problems because you are going to make sure of it, not because of someone else. How many times have you been given bad advice from someone, even if it's legal advice, and you said, wait a second, medical advice, wait a second, I think I need a second opinion. I think I need to think about this in another way. Maybe that person isn't right. So even when you're dealing with experts, it's our job to decide that we need a second opinion in law, in medicine, in anything in our lives. And that relates to real estate as well. So I think people should focus on how to keep themselves out of trouble a little bit more, and how to stay up to date, and do their own due diligence. Otherwise, we are dispersing our personal responsibility onto other people, and eventually you will get in trouble if that's your mindset. So hope that's helpful, David.
So what you're saying is we just got to keep moving forward, right? Like, hey, listen, this is where we're at. Like, let's move, keep moving. What's next, right? Like, look at, it's kind of funny if you think about the industry, like Blockbuster. Remember, you guys all know the Blockbuster story. Well, Netflix went to Blockbuster first and said, hey, would you like to purchase this thing that we have? And Blockbuster said, no, that's stupid, right? Like, I don't know if that's exactly what they said, but they didn't like it didn't make sense to them. So what did they do is they moved on. And what happened to Blockbuster? You all know the story, right? Kodak, same thing. The company Kodak, the largest in the world film producer, they had an opportunity to convert to digital, but they chose not to. Right now, what's Kodak gone? So this conversation has been going on a long time in the real estate industry. It's not like this is brand new. It just happened yesterday. This has been going on a long time. So it's like, okay, have you adjusted? You can't get mad at the National Association of Realtors because you don't know how to explain to your client how it works. And by the way, how many buyer's agents, and I know because I had them on my teams, that would just say to the buyer, hey, don't worry, it doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Like, just work with me and it's free. It doesn't cost, but technically it doesn't. I guess technically it didn't cost them anything. But so I think a lot of it does really come down to disclosure, right? Just the way we were disclosing
Or
things.
technically, it didn't cost the seller anything. It came from the price that the buyer was willing to offer. But that's another story.
I don't know about that. I don't see. I always struggle with that, because it comes from the process. I just dropped a video. this morning on this. So let's break this down then, because we got Diana up here. I always love when Diana comes up. We got Ladora up here.
Diana's been feisty lately.
Yeah,
David.
Diana's always feisty.
Yeah.
She's always feisty. You should hear the way she treated one of my salespeople that called her. It was brutal.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that if you're gonna bring it up and put me on the spot.
It was brutal. I was surprised. Like, I told the guy, I said, "Hey, call Diana. I feel like she'll be nice to you." And he was like, "She wasn't nice to me, but that's okay."
I was so nice. I bet you he's not even working as your salesperson anymore, because I was super nice.
Yeah, I'm messing
him.
with you.
I was
I like you, Diana. I'm
very
messing with you.
honest. And you should record calls. I can't believe me and David. I was telling David for us to do all these different things. And then he has one of his Cardone people call me, and I'm having fun with the guy. I was having fun with him, but I was giving him like some tips. You know, I was talking to him, and I guess he took that and he cried to David, and then David comes and bites my head off, and I'm like, dude,
bite your head
come
off.
on.
I was just like, what? Listen, it's kind of funny.
Anna would have been 10 times meaner. I guarantee.
Why haven't I had the pleasure of talking to one of your?
Oh God, they just don't last long enough, Anna. Like, I try to put, like,
just for fun,
I thought Diana was going to be nice, so I was like, here, this is a layup. I thought so. I threw a layup and then it didn't go well. But anyway,
it was nice. He just couldn't take criticism, constructive criticism. Come on.
All right. Anyway, so I forget where I just distracted myself. We were talking about the percentage. So here's what I broke this down this morning on my YouTube channel, by the way. If anybody wants to join me too, click on that link. Hey, Diane, if you want to jump on video with me, I'm streaming live. We got 32 people watching on YouTube right now. You're welcome to join me. But I broke this down this morning, and if you took a $400,000 property, okay, this is like, to me, this is basic. You guys can break me down, tell me no, that doesn't make sense, make me wrong. But if the seller sells his house for $400,000 and the commission is X percent, Anna, right? I'm going to say it's 6. If the commission's 6%, then that's $24,000, right? But if there's no other agent to pay a half of a commission to, that means the commission's half of that, right? In most cases, at least the way we did it. So that means it would only cost him $12,000. So at the end of the day, the seller walks away with more money because the commission's less. How can we ever dispute that? Like, maybe I'm just so stubborn, but to me,
we talked about this last night. So here's the missing variable to your equation. Diane and I talked about last night. So what percentage nationally do you think are deals done with one agent, whether it's dual agent, direct agent, transaction agent, whatever we call them in whatever state, whatever, blah, blah. But one agent who generally initially represents or primarily only represents the seller, or it is a dual agent situation with one agent, not dual agent with the brokerage and designated agent. If we all get what I'm saying, one agent representing both parties somehow, some way, right? How many transactions historically are done that way? Maybe 10%, maybe 20. Like, I'll go as far as to say 20. So what about the other 80%, 85, 90% of transactions that require a buyer agent bringing their buyer to the table? So your whole analogy, sure, in that small select few deals that happen that way, that works. But without the variable of the buyer agent bringing that buyer to the table, it doesn't work.
So your thesis on this is that the deal would not close if it wasn't for the buyer's agent in those cases. So that's why it doesn't make a difference.
Well, that's data. It's not my theory. It's statistically speaking, less than 20% of all transactions happen with one agent involved.
Okay, but based on the model, okay, fair enough. So I'll okay, I like that. You definitely made me think about. I don't know why I didn't, but you're right. There is some truth to that. However, you know, that's being changed now, right? So there is we go back to the beginning where we're talking about disruption. Okay, so the reality is now, if the sellers decide I don't want to pay another agent, people are not going to not buy the house that they want, not be in a nice school system that they want, not be in the neighborhoods that they want, because a real estate agent wants to get paid for representing them. What are people going to do?
Agreed. I agree with that statement as well.
Yeah. So the reality is, people are, some people, well, here's what I would say. You guys you can jump in on this, Anna, if you want, or Alicia, or Diana. I think that buyer's agents are going to have there, because, if you look at the travel industry, there's still travel agents out there, right? Most people go to Expedia, right? Or one of the websites like Expedia, but there's still travel agents. So what are you guys' thoughts? I mean, buyer's agents, I think the majority of them are gonna probably be out of work soon. I hate to say it, but that's kind of what I think. What do you guys think?
Would you agree before this settlement that the majority of agents were, more so than statistically, historically, 80-something% in the first 2 to 3 years exit the industry anyway? So weren't we going to have mass exodus anyhow? The market was that much more challenging in the last year or so, and for various reasons there are going to be fewer agents. But yes, I agree, the ones who have not operated in such a way that they're seen as professionals, not just door openers. I call them Uber drivers with e-keys, right? They think their job is to just open doors all day and show a house. And if you're lucky, a buyer will choose that house and they will choose you. And therefore you have a deal. That's a ridiculous business model and a terrible way to prove your value. But they've existed. Will they continue to exist? If they have a problem picking up the phone and reaching out to the list agent to determine what, if any, commission is being offered, and if it isn't, how do I go about negotiating that into the deal? Well, then, yeah, it's above their pay grade. They don't know how to do it, so they probably won't.
So what percentage? So my thought process would be probably what, 20%, 30% will do that and be good at it, maybe. What do you guys think? Yeah, Alicia, what were you going to say?
But yeah, so hold on, because listen to what Anna's saying, and it's important, right? If you are the buyer's agent, it's on you to show that you have the value. When you are the listing agent, you are the one who negotiated the commission. However that's going to be spent, right? Or split. If that was 3%, if it was 5%, if it was 6%, you negotiated that. So buyer's agents already were always in a situation that they would never know what commission they might get, because if they're doing their job right, they are finding the right property for that client. They're not looking based on what they're going to pay. The only one who would know that was the listing agent, right? Now, if they got more because they also were buyer's agents for other clients, okay. Listing agents can know how much they're going to make all the time, because when it sells, that's their commission. Buyer's agents, on the other hand, and I know that buyer's agents have done this. I'm surprised we don't have lawsuits about that. Will specifically go and look for what the commission is going to be and show properties where they're going to make more. Not all of them, but there are those agents out there. They're not doing a good job, right? And they're looking out for themselves,
Sure.
not for the clients, and not presenting things that might be right for the clients based on commissions. Whereas the listing agent will negotiate, and if they don't want to list a property because it's not going to be worth it, the work that they're doing, they can pass on it, but they haven't done anything wrong, because they were clear up front before any contract was drawn, before the listing agreement was made. So I think we really need to think about the behavior of buyer's agents to begin with. And the ones that are struggling are putting themselves in that situation to struggle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as you know, it's not all buyer's agents. It's, there's some really good buyer's agents out there. There were some that really helped out a lot with me. There were people like I did not want to deal with as a listing agent, and thank God they had somebody else in between them and me, right? And it helped the seller, it helped the whole transaction. So I don't just devalue buyer's agents, by the way. just think that there's a lot that are not going to be able to figure this out, and it's a game changer for the industry. A question on the market itself. This is probably.
Well, wait, before you go to another question,
Yeah.
I'm going to call you out. I think you're lying right now.
Okay.
100% facts.
All right. Tell me. I love it. Let's go. Tell me why I'm
Well,
lying.
Because, thank you so much. You could just leave it there. Thank you. Because a moment ago,
I'm
you were
lying. I
going-
love a lot straight out lying too, not just saying.
Well, I mean,
okay,
I'm just
I
going to
got
call it what it is.
Okay.
You were going to reactivate your license because you were going to have a field day with what exactly, David? What was your point?
Listings.
And where were you-
Listings.
Right. Why? Why now?
Because I think it's easier now. I think you can show up now,
why?
and because you don't have to pay a buyer's agent.
Right.
It
the buyer
doesn't
agent that
doesn't
you
have
were
to be on the
valuing a moment
MLS.
ago?
So
Right. The
but
buyer agent you were.
I
just
would
giving
but Anna,
flowers.
but here's what I would say. Anna, is I would still have the exact same conversation I was having before, and then let the seller make a decision. The difference between now and before is before we didn't have to, and this was where I was leading to the next question, which I'll get to. But the difference was between now and before is it was standard to put a percentage on the MLS, right? Now it's not. So now you could say to the seller, hey, I still think it might be in your interest to do this. Well, actually you can't, right? So that doesn't even matter at this point. But I guess you at least have to explain it to them. But I'm not lying. I mean, I think there is definitely some benefits, and there's been some transactions that, yeah, buyer's agents help, not all. And somebody said this the other day. We were in here doing a room, and someone's like, well, it's going to be twice as much work for you. So what? Yeah, good. If it's twice as much work for me, then I'll deal with it. So I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not lying about anything. I'm just trying to. I'm open-minded, Anna. That's all. I'm open-minded.
You just think it's better to be a listing agent.
I do.
Right?
100%. Yeah, 100, like 1,000%. People that know me, everybody knows that. Like if you go to my training, my community is called Real Estate Listings Club, right? I mean, it's like that's all I talk about. Been talking about that for 3 years on this app, and 12 years before that, a training for Keller Williams. The only classes I taught, Win Sellers and Seller Mastery. So yeah, I'm a listing agent.
Well, the deaf guy, who I don't think is in the room anymore,
Who?
I was reading some of the comments.
Yep.
He was saying, with no buyer, no one gets paid. To me, whoever brings the buyer is the most important piece. I've always been happy to pay buyer agents, blah, blah, blah. Any case, he's not in the room any longer, but I don't know if
we need him up here.
Yeah. But I would say that I agree with that.
You agree with him?
No. I'm saying I wouldn't agree with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yet also, even with this lawsuit, and yes, the change is that I can no longer share that information through the MLS, right? It doesn't mean that I'm no longer going to encourage a seller to compensate the buyer agent. So my conversation is no different. And while it was standard to a degree, like our listing contracts in Pennsylvania, I'm not sure what they are in your states, guys, but our listing contract says, look, we're agreeing, we're going to list this property. We have to agree on a few things. We have to agree on the price that's going to be offered, right? We're going to collaborate on that. The term, how long is this listing contract going to be? Of course, the compensation, how much are you willing to, and what I'm willing to accept, because that's negotiable in compensation. And then on the next page, of which that total compensation being offered, some portion, whether it's split half or not, is going to be offered to a buyer agent. So in that regard, a seller could choose to not compensate the buyer agent, at least on our listing contracts. Again, it could be different in your states. However, what it said underneath that is it is our broker policy to compensate and cooperate with buyer agents. I think that line is going to go away because it can't be our policy that we mandate cooperation with other agents. I think it should be the seller's choice. I think it should have always been the seller's choice.
Yeah, I'm with
You know
you.
what's really interesting, guys? So a lot of people don't know that the National Association of Realtors historically has always supported dual agency. Always. Like there was, when we first started, right? There wasn't even buyer's
You're gonna
agency
start
until the
that
90s.
again, aren't you?
Listen, man, it's coming back. I think this is part of it. I think this is part of it, is bringing back and making some of these states remove their policies on not allowing dual agency. And here's why. Because when you look at the listing contracts, you guys keep saying that the cooperating broker compensation was negotiated between listing agent and seller. But it can also be interpreted that listing agent was charging a fee based on listing agent also producing buyer for seller and performing dual agency. And in the event that cooperative broker was the one that brought the highest and best buyer, then in that case, the listing agent would give X amount to cooperative broker. So the way that we interpret this is really interesting because it varies state by state and contracts are all different. So I think one thing that we have to look forward to is it now is looking like it's going to be a more standard practice across all 50 states so the poor consumer and apparently realtors are not so confused. But that's how I see it. I think this is a big push for bringing back dual agency.
I think your listing contracts in your state definitely read differently. And I'm curious, is there not also a check off box on your listing contract to also agree at the time of listing whether or not your seller is allowing you to do dual agency?
Massachusetts
With
not
or without
allowed,
designated agent, by the way. So again,
or
not to
company, I should
confuse,
say.
right, not to confuse dual agency within the brokerage, but dual agency without designated agent. We have the checkoff box on our listing contract where we are agreeing or disagreeing on not having designated agent.
In California, the dual agency kicks in when the listing agent produces the notification of a dual agency once they agree to rep a buyer. So it's not in our actual listing contract. However, on the commission side, there also isn't the differentiation that listing agent can't keep all of the commission and put zero on cooperating broker. So, I mean, we can have a whole room on this some other time because I quite frankly think that everybody's forms are going to change, especially with the requirement of buyer agency now across all 50 states.
So I want to transition the conversation now into some solutions. I mean, we all know this is here. It's not changing. It's coming. July's going to be here before we know it. Although I want to touch on that silly comment before we move on about the buyer agent being the most important element in the sales process. I don't know. I should probably read it. Maybe I'm butchering what they said, but I think that is just an imbecilic thing to say, because how do you, like, without the listing, right? So it's kind of like saying, the consumer, like if you want to buy, so you got to go to Amazon, you want to buy something on Amazon. Without Amazon, you can't buy anything, right? Like, what are you going to buy? Like, I need some, I'm starting to train for a race again. So I need some gels and some energy shots and things like that. I got to go to Amazon to buy it, right? Otherwise I got to go to the store. So I don't, yeah.
A lot has changed, but if you go back many years, listing agents had to do a lot of work, and they really were bringing in the buyers. I remember, God, like 20 years ago, I was an account manager for A&G newspapers, and I had this huge territory, like quite a few counties, right? This is, Diana, I'm also in California, so this was in Northern California, right? Alameda County, Contra Costa County, tons of counties. And the only person you could contact to place an ad was me, right? And everyone had to place ads. This is before everything went haywire and they outsourced and all of this stuff. Okay. So these listing agents, they had to, like, every week they would spend so much money putting advertisements into the newspaper, bringing people in. That's where a lot of the agents were going, was to look. It was kind of like the standard expectation. They would have catering. They would pay for staging in the house. They would do all of these different things that buyer's agents, all they had to do was show up. And so I think back then, a lot of people wanted to be buyer's agents, honestly, because they thought they could get more bang for their buck, because the listing agents had to work so hard. So listing agents that have stayed now, they have referral business, right? A lot of them work primarily off of referral business because they've managed to maintain stability in the industry, even if as it's gone up and down. But the truth is that the history of it was that the listing agent was doing most of the work. And the buyer's agents, when they were overworking themselves, it's because they didn't have qualified clients to work with in the first place. And that was on them for not having qualified clients and not setting expectations.
Yeah, well, listen, so thank you. Yeah, so when I got licensed in 2001, by the way. In 2002 is when we really started seeing buyer agency more mainstream. Go back and you'll see and then I remember back then I was new to the industry, so I didn't even understand it. But there were brokerages back then saying we're not going to pay buyer's agents, and I was just like, okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. I'm focused on the listing anyway. And the team I joined, he told me that we pay buyers agents, right? I wouldn't have known any better if I joined someone else. So I'm just, it's funny because this is right now, I'm thinking out loud right now is what's happening. Like I'm thinking, like wondering why did they implement, like, right? Because it was done a certain way for a long time. And then all of a sudden in 2001, they said we need buyer's agents. Does anybody know why they decided they needed buyer's agents? So did just the buyers feel like they needed representation? Is that what caused that? I guess that is what caused that.
Because of dual agency. So there were so many lawsuits that made it so that we understood the value of a fiduciary as it pertains to the buyer. A lot of times, remember, we even did loans came in way later too. So before, it was one agent representing the entire transaction. And when listings became...
Well, they had sub-agents too, Diana. Remember we had sub-agents back then?
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, listen, if it's up to listing agents, buyer agents would go away because now there's so many offices that have these huge, massive teams. But remember, teams in real estate was not the norm. So as more agents wanted to be listing agents, it became more difficult for buyers to get true representation because the buyer's agents would come from the same listing office. All of this stuff has to do with lawsuits, just like now. I don't know how the court's going to be able to sign, because all you realtors who really care about this stuff, the court still has to sign off on this. And there are so many things that have to be addressed that I don't know how they're going to sign off in the next 2 months. You can write your opinion on it, because who this is really going to hurt is going to be buyers. And I do agree with the comment that was made. If you think about, see, the consumer is used to free and open access to realtors, right? So imagine a buyer, if now you're going to have to count billable hours for conversations, for phone calls, for showing all the properties, for going to inspections, for the deals that fall out of escrow, all of this stuff. I don't think they understand the value of the buyer's agent not being paid until the end. And if it was up to y'all, we wouldn't even have buyer's agents anymore. You guys would go back to the sub-agent model.
I don't mean to laugh, but man, you know what? Like what you just said, it's making the buyers put some skin in the game. Then, let them do that, because now they're not going to want to go see, 60 houses, have the deals fall apart, change their mind last minute, right? Waste all this time. Like anyway, I invited James up. James had a question in the chat. I like the question. So James, you can come up, or if you want, I'll just read it. But you're welcome to come up too. But
he can't be passive aggressive. If he wants his
well,
question,
some people
he
don't.
should come up here.
He could be at work
and take the hit. No, he's not at work. He's not at work. He's chilling back and just relaxing. But before we do
Anna,
get to
James, Anna said I can't even answer your question. She's taking over the room.
he's gonna have to come up. I don't give a shit if I have a green bean or not, and I can't bring him up myself.
You know what? Let me mod you, Anna. So
No,
I'm sorry.
Please don't.
I haven't been on this app in so long. I forgot about the mod badges.
David,
people take those mod badges serious.
But please don't, because I hate having it, because then people who do come in, they expect me to bring them up. I actually love that I'm not. Give it to Diana or Alicia. But anyway, okay, so can we please rewind for a second? Because Diana, I'm coming for you now. And God love her. We get along.
We have to transition soon. We have to transition soon.
Okay, but this is important. This is important because Diana over here, who heavily supports dual agency in all things, is now coming to the realization when the question was asked, why did buyer agency come about? And let me guess, because of all the lawsuits, because of all the buyers who got screwed and purchasing homes and didn't know what they needed to know. And if history continues to repeat itself, if we look back and understand why buyer agency came to be, we couldn't possibly in the same breath agree that dual agency is a good thing and then just discount what happened and why it came to be in the first place. Just saying.
This is why I love David Hill, right? Because there's one thing that I care more about than dual agency, and that is broker, owner, and agent training. See, 60% as in my market, that number was given to us 2 weeks ago. 60% of realtors do not do any business, right? And if you look at all of the Department of Real Estate complaints, I'm telling you guys, including this lawsuit, we would not be here if we didn't put ourselves here. So to be honest with you, dual agency can be done very, very well, but not when a office has 100, 200, 300 agents and nobody's supervising them. So it's a bigger deal. And I think that as we transition in the room, all of this is going to go back to training, because one thing that the four of us, hi, James. I don't know about James, but the four of us have is an extensive amount of knowledge that we are willing to pass on to people. So yes, I support dual agency. And guess what, Anna? I think you're going to have no choice.
So
I think you're right. Honest to God, I don't like it. And that will definitely be a huge change from my personal business and my process. But I think you're right.
I guess, yeah. And again, that's another rabbit hole that we can go down. I don't really want to do it now just because of my limited on time. But you're right. It's a good point. And are we going to go back to like a sub agency? Are we gonna? There'll still be buyer's agent, is what I'm assuming, right? I don't think any of us know exactly yet. But it just won't be on the MLS. Or are we gonna? Because if somebody does show up, to me, here's what I've always done. I've always represented the seller. That's it. So I would tell them, if Anna showed up to my listing as a buyer and she wants to buy it, I'm gonna say, Anna, I represent the seller. I'm fair. I'm honest. I'll help you as much as I can, but you need to know my relationship, my fiduciary responsibility is to the seller. If you're okay with that, tell me what you want to offer, right? Like, that's how I always would handle that situation. I can't represent both sides. It's impossible. How can I represent the buyer and the seller?
I can't stand how much we're agreeing today, David. I don't know what's going on in the universe. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Even the Bible tells you you cannot serve two masters.
Yeah, I don't see how you can do that. It doesn't make sense. So, but anyway, James is up. So Anna, good job calling him out. What's going on, James?
Oh, I was talking to somebody.
We lost you.
I'm saying what I got called out on my comment I made in the chat.
Yeah. Anna said you had to come up. You had to come up and verbally ask your question.
Well, my verbally is as I'm listening to you, David. My question,
bro, your phone is
what were you?
Your phone is all busted up, bro.
What were the purchase?
So I'll go to the question in the chat because your reception's not that great, James.
I must have been in the red bar. Can you hear me clearly?
Oh yeah, this is better now, much better. Okay, what's the question?
If your seller needs to purchase.
Yeah, so if we have a seller that needs to purchase a house, then we'll set them up with a buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent will have to explain. Like my wife's a buyer's agent, and she'll just explain, hey, this is how we get paid. We have an agreement. If the other side's not willing to offer a percentage to me, which I think she charges whatever she charges percentage wise, then I'm going to ask you to give it to me, right? Which is the same thing I think she does now, to be honest with you, for the most part. And then if there's no compensation. So, and this is, James, this is exactly why, 10 years ago, there was a kid named Justin Jarbo that used to run. I had a buyer team. We had a team of buyers, and Justin Jarbo ran it for me. And everybody that they worked with would sign an agreement. Like they would not take a buyer out unless they signed an agreement. So they would explain it to them first, explain how it worked, and that's when they would take them out. So I think, James, it would be the same, right? I mean, the only difference would be instead of us seeing it on the MLS, like if I see like Anna's offering X percentage, then I would now have to just call Anna and say, hey, Anna, I've got a buyer, like not that I'm going to call, but my wife is an example. I've got a buyer who wants to buy your property and tell me about it. And oh, by the way, if I do that deal, I'm looking for X percentage. And then they would have to have that conversation, right? That's kind of my hypothesis of where the industry's going. I'll tell you who I feel bad for, though, is the Zillow agents. We were talking about this earlier. Like how I sure don't feel bad for Zillow, but I feel bad for the agents that have built a business on Zillow leads, because for you guys that do Zillow doesn't even want you qualifying the buyer. Like they want you to go out without even asking questions. How does that work now? You're going to run over there with no compensation on the MLS? Like I feel, yeah, I bet you Zillow hasn't even slept since Friday. Like their executives are probably somewhere in a room trying to figure out how, because they've been disrupted big time. Big time. James, I don't know. Did I answer your question, James?
Not really, but it's all good.
You not really, James.
You talking around the world to me, bro.
How did I not answer your question?
Because what it really sounds like to me is you'll pass. I guess you're saying you'll pass them off instead of actually putting in the time.
I'm not working with buyers, James.
He will totally pass up the buying side.
Of course I would.
And so from when I'm listening to you saying that, and from you saying you talk to MRA, I mean, you just sound like you're contradicting yourself to me a little bit, bro. Because why are you not gonna get both sides? I mean, I don't understand you. To me, you just sound like you're contradicting yourself a little bit, bro.
James, hold on. Oh, hold on. So James, if you
I don't even go back and forth.
If you know the book, bro, get the book. Get the book, James. Go get the book.
I do got the book,
I used to teach it. So
Gary
Gary Keller's model is having the buyer's agent, bro. Right? That you as a team owner, I don't work with buyers. I pass the buyers to my buyer team. That's so you're wrong, my man. You're 100% wrong. What you're saying doesn't make sense based on the book.
That's what I feel about what you're saying. It
okay,
don't make
good.
Sense.
Well, there we go. Well, I was a trainer for Keller Williams for 8 years or 9 years, so I used to teach it. So go back, read the book again, and then come back and talk to us. That's all.
Anna would have just shut up and let me read the question and answer.
Anna, this is your fault. But yeah, let's read the question. He's asking if I
room engagement, David. My God.
No, this is good. This is beautiful. Would I work with the buyer? No, I would not work with the buyer. I would pass the buyer off, which is exactly what James said. So why is he upset with me?
Because the buyer is the seller. I would never, ever let anybody represent my seller as the buyer, especially because
my wife is the buyer's agent. Did you hear what I said?
You tell him, James.
Thank you, Diana. Why am I going to pass my seller off to somebody else? So, David, what you going to do if your seller tell you, I want you to represent me on the buying side? That's the only way you're going to list my house.
Why do you care?
I'm going to go to my wife, who's my wife is my business partner, who's going to represent him on the buyer side. That's why. Because I don't work. Why am I going to go show buyers houses? I don't do that.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
What do you mean it's not fair?
Because 90% of agents don't have their spouse working for them. Let's say your wife was not the buyer's agent.
But that's my case, though. You asked me a specific question. I give you the answer. You don't like the answer. I'm giving you my specific answer to the question you asked me. Now everybody's mad at me. My wife,
I'm not mad at you, David. I'm actually going to defend you because this is terrible. We're agreeing again. Now, I don't have a wife. I do have a husband, but he's not in real estate. Yet I've worked with many sellers that were also buying, and I
That's right.
chose
Me too.
not to represent
100%
on the buy side because whatever's going on in my life, and I mean many times. Now, of course, I had a team, and even now that I don't, I have agents in my organization that I'll refer that client to them to help them go buy a house. It just depends on what my workload is, how many active listings I have at the time, how many active buyers I have. If I don't have the wherewithal, and the way that I work with buyers is quite different than the average buyer agent does. I mean, to me, that's a listing. If they're not under contract in 30 days, I'm doing something wrong, right? I will go find them the house, find them what is not there. If they are ready to rock, especially if they're cash or great financing, but for a house they're not under contract, that's my fault, not theirs, right? So the amount of time that it takes invested in working with a buyer at the level that I do, there are times in my weeks, months, and whatever, that it is not to their best interest. It's not advantageous to them, and it's certainly not to me.
Hey, what are you building a house over there?
You vacuuming over there?
No, my husband is, so I had to walk away.
So Anna, check this out, right? So if my buyer consultation, literally, even when I was doing buyers back in 2009, I used the Sean Kokoska buyer consultation, which said, we will show you 7 houses and you will buy one of the houses. I swear to God, I probably still have it somewhere. And because we've done, and now if I was going to go work with a buyer, this is why buyers don't want to work with me, right? Like they don't want me. They want my wife. My wife loves them, take care of them, right? Or this guy, Justin Jarbo, that used to run my team. He enjoys that. I will throw up if I have to go open more than one door for somebody and show them around the house and talk about kitchens and applying, right? Like that, it's just not what I do. So listen, there's nothing wrong with that. And James, your model is great. You can do your business however you want. Nobody's telling you how, but I promise you, if you understand the millionaire real estate agent model, there is a separation between what the lead listing agent does and what his buyer's agents do on the team.
It seems like everyone agreed that it's a very personal choice. It's not just about like, could you? It's, should you? Why should I do that? Like Anna said, depending on her schedule. I've had that happen to me where the listing, the owner was so difficult to work with that there was no way that I would, I didn't even want to finish that transaction, but I had to because that was my job and I agreed to do it. But there was no way I was taking them on to be a buyer, right? They started out understanding and maybe they had unrealistic expectations. I have the right to not work with them on another transaction. Or maybe like Anna said, that I'm too busy. It's not like, would you, if all things are aligned, it makes sense. In your case, David, I'm assuming that income from selling and buying was going into your family's collective income, right? So it makes sense. Or if you do have a team, I don't think it's a contradiction though to say no, I wouldn't do it, or to say sometimes I would do it and sometimes I wouldn't. You should never work with a client who you can't appropriately represent, regardless of the reasons. Right? If you cannot do your job for that client, whether it's because you're too busy, whether it's because you have a conflict, or whether it's because you don't like them, then you should pass them along.
I would say for me, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like there's too much agreement on the stage. So James, thanks for coming up here. But here's the thing. For me, right? For me, I since 2009 have been preaching. I've been on this app thousands of times, people arguing with me, getting mad at me, right? I forget her name, that we need to get her in here, the buyer agent lady that I haven't seen in ages. What's her name? The blonde lady, nice lady. Gosh. Anyway, regardless of that.
Oh my gosh, Lee Brown?
Not Lee Brown. No, Lee Brown's not a buyer's agent, but
You talk so passionately about buyers, but I don't know.
But no, but listen, this is all I talk about is listings. Now, if all of a sudden I decide, okay, I'm going to start working with buyers now, it doesn't even make sense. Like the last thing I want to do is work with buyers. Like, so why would I start doing that now? It makes no sense. I will refer them out, or give them to my wife. You know, if my wife wants it, then she can take it, or we'll do something. But I'm not going to. Why am I going to start showing them homes? Doesn't make sense.
I'll tell you why I'm going to have to reconsider and work with more of my buyers that are my sellers. Because if I don't think an agent is strong enough,
sure,
to, right, you know, and I'm going to have more probing questions in that referral and interview process. How do they begin that relationship? What do they require of their buyer? I'll probably go back to what I used to do with some agents, depending on their level. I would be their buyer agent, but I also introduce a showing partner or an associate. You know, we're going to do this together. She's going to be an extension of me, so that no matter who finds you the house, ultimately I'm going to negotiate your deal. But listen, there's only so many hours in the day. I don't overpromise on any end, listing or buyer. Like, it is what it is. I can handle what I can handle, and I need to sleep well at night, not feeling like I underserved any particular client.
I just wrote that down, Anna, because I feel like that is like what you just said. You know, if you're not like me and you don't have a wife in the business that enjoys working with buyers and is great with buyers, then showing agent makes a lot of sense, right? Where you can control the compensation if you want to, and they can open doors for you. I think that's brilliant. I love that you said that. I think that's smart.
It goes back to teams, right? Like being able to have teams and deciding how that is going to work. I mean, I have an additional complication that I'm a licensed mortgage broker, right? In addition to being a real estate broker. So there's also times that I will refer out, just depending on the situation, whether I think there may be a little bit of a conflict. Sometimes there isn't, but maybe there is. Or if it's a capacity, but I have that network. I mean, that's why I had my broker's agency in the first place. I was not legal counsel, but I was the responsible party. I spent all my days talking to legal counsel, providing trainings to my agents, making sure that people were doing the things that they were best at doing, and encouraging that teamwork so that they could be more efficient, and everybody won. Right. And I won because, of course, I'm getting commissions, but I want people to want to send people to me again because they trust me. And sometimes the best way that you can get people to trust you is by setting them up with the right people and the right team. And in a buyer or a seller who feels like you have really presented them with a team with their best interest is so loyal. right? If you do right by them, because there's very little doubt that you are interested in their best interest, that's what you're working towards, because you're not trying to control every aspect of the transaction. And that's where I think people get themselves in trouble, is they want to control everything. And people aren't getting other opinions, and it's important for them to get those other opinions, because sometimes those other opinions are wrong. And if your buyer or your seller isn't exposed to those things, so you can correct them, so you can keep them on track, so you can make sure that they understand what's going on, you're not going to know until you run into an actual problem.
I want to get Liz up here into the conversation, because she raised her hand a while ago. So thank you, Liz, for coming back. I also want to let you guys know on the top, we are literally this could not have been, it's not a coincidence, or it is, like, we've been planning this challenge for 2 weeks, promoting the heck out of it. And all of a sudden this news dropped on Friday. Like, what a better way to get started focusing on listings starting tomorrow to jump into this challenge. Like, seriously, go click on that link. Look at what it entails. We're going to spend 8 days together with a group of realtors from around the country, every one of us focusing on listings. And I promise you, every day this conversation is going to be coming into the mix now. So take a look at that. If you want to get a jump start on listings, if you've never taken listings before, man, we're going to give you 5 different strategies for sellers, 8 days of accountability, a group, a community, live calls together, role play. Just wow, it's beautiful timing for that. So click on that link on the top, take a look at it, and we still have space for a few. If you guys want to join us, it starts tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern. All right, I'm gonna toss it over to Liz, because I want to hear what your question is, Liz.
Hey, David. Hey, I did not mean to get up here, honestly. I'm trying to take in all that I can from Chattanooga, Tennessee. But on a few things, I guess I'll just say, when I'm listing everything, I think buyer agents are important. Listing agents are important. I know I hear all the time that in Europe, the buyer pays a fee all the time. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's what I keep hearing. Where I live in Chattanooga, it is rare. And ever since the news dropped, all these lawsuits, nothing much has changed except for sometimes builders. I don't understand how a buyer comes up with closing costs, down payment, and a pretty hefty buyer agent fee for most buyers. I think buyers who have a lot of money, that's not a problem. That's the things I don't understand about how buyers can come up with paying their agent. So I want to know, our buyers, for these people, realtors who are having their fee paid by buyers, are buyers saving up for that fee? How are they doing it? I would love to know the mechanics of how a buyer is coming up with the money. Are they prepared in advance? Somebody please tell me.
Doesn't it depend on the buyer? I mean, some buyers have more money than others, right? Some buyers don't. So I think that's a very hard question to answer.
Well, I think before that, go ahead, Alicia.
No, I was just saying, in any case, their money has to be seasoned. So the planning part of it, whether they have that money already or not, it's not an overnight change. That just becomes part of the planning process, because they can't just mysteriously have money come into their account, right when they're ready to go into a transaction. Like, they have to be able to show that they were qualified to make that purchase in the first place. So that kind of comes back to you a little bit. As things change, you have to educate them on what that is and what it requires to be an actual qualified buyer. And then that isn't just on you, but then that's on the mortgage officer, right? Whoever's giving them the loan. And what David said, yeah, it like completely depends on their circumstances, but the planning exists already. It exists today.
I think that question also brings up one of the biggest misinterpretations of the settlement with NAR. There is nothing that says that the commission cannot be negotiated with the seller. So to say or to imply or to have the mindset that this settlement agreement means that a buyer is the only way that a buyer's agent can be compensated is completely incorrect. So I always want to make that statement because it's one of the most important statements that I think we need to understand. Agents are losing their mind. I've heard broker owners say the exact same thing, that now commissions for the buyer's agents can only come from the buyers, and that is not true. So that's the first thing. Did you have something to say, David?
No, I just agreed with you on that. I also want to let you guys know that I'm going to do a little promotion here because I'm on X. I'm doing a lot more on X. Love to kind of get this. It's been very difficult. Like right now, I mean, I'm in the like big crypto and Bitcoin because there's not a lot of these types of spaces over there. But I'd love to see some more real estate spaces over there on X. So if you guys click on the link on the top, let's get connected on X because there's a huge, like it's growing like wildfire. One thing, and then second, I dropped it in the chat now for people that are interested in jumping on the challenge with us. Make sure you know that link's in the chat. Take a look at it. I'm telling you, take a look at it because it's a cool opportunity for you to spend 8 days with me and like agents and like I'm like, let's say somebody's skeptical about it. You don't even know who I am really yet. Then reach out to me. Send me a direct message. I'll let you in for the first day. Check it out the first day. And then after that, if you're like, wow, I want to stay. If you don't, then hey, at least you got a free day. And so I'll throw that out there for people that are like, I don't know if this makes sense. Check out the first day with us tomorrow for free. And then if after that you want to stay, you can pay and stay. So I just want to throw that out there. All right. Diana, back to you.
What Diana said, and I think we even opened the room with that statement, right? Because you had said too, like buyer agents aren't going to be paid. I'm like, that's not true. It's just not going to be shared in the MLS. So now not that buyer agents are not going to be paid by the seller. It's that you got to bring a little bit of your communication and your negotiation skills to the table. You're going to have to go find out, number one. But to Liz's question, to me, what I hear in that question, because in my world, and I'm not saying this to be like, sucks for you, kind of whatever. Like, yeah, I've had plenty of buyers. Is it the norm that the seller, when I'm the buyer agent, pays my commission? Yes. Yet I've had plenty of transactions where the buyer directly paid my commission. I have listed and sold homes where there is no offering of compensation to the buyer agent. Now, those are generally always actually on my off-market deals. Not to say that the buyer agent couldn't negotiate and include their compensation in their buyer's offer, simply that you have an opportunity to show a property that otherwise isn't there, right? Here's the price. And in some of them, we don't even have a price. We're like, throw your ring in a hat, throw your best offer in, seller's going to review on Monday. It just depends. So Liz, my point is that if that is a concern in your area, here's the good news. If that is a very real concern in your area, that means it's a very real concern for the average buyer in your area, which means that in order for any buyer to buy a home in that area and come up with some level percentage of down payment and afford some part of their closing costs, that it's likely they're going to be submitting their offers, whether it's being offered up front or not, with buyer agency commission included on the seller net sheet, right? Because you can't get water from a stone. So if I look at a listing and I recognize that the majority of these listings in this particular area over here, there seems to always be an average of 3 to 5% seller concession, because that area kind of calls for it. And most buyers over there, it's not a majority of material defects. It's just, that's how buyers buy homes in that area. I'm going to share that with my seller, right? It's very likely that in this area, it's not the norm for me, but that's usually what happens over there. So if that's what usually happens in your market, it's not going to change. It's just simply not going to be stated on the MLS.
On the MLS. Yeah. Yeah. So listen, everybody, 100%. I agree with it's been a fun conversation today. Like a lot of agreement though. I'd love more disagreement. We need more buyer's agents in here that are like, are mad and
but I totally disagree with y'all. I think the buyer's agent is going to make a huge comeback. In fact, I might jump back into production just to prove y'all and take these little challenges that you guys are trying to put out there, because it will be the death of consumer proper representation if y'all listing agents try to sit here and force the exit and the death of buyer's agents. That's what's going to happen.
We're not doing anything. This is NAR. This ain't us. This is the National Association of Real Estate Agents that did this, not us.
And Diana has officially spoken out of both sides of her mouth.
Yes, there you go.
Listen,
whoever,
as a true
James,
agent,
how come James isn't jumping on Diana right now, huh? What's up, James? Oh, he's on the phone. He didn't even hear that.
I have a question for you guys. So I'm not even done with this 108-page settlement, right? So tomorrow, right? They're going to be my first calls, all the legal counsel, because what it sounds like is that the commission on each property must be negotiated with each buyer separately. So how is it that you're going to make that work? I totally see some of these offices that are quote unquote listing driven offices to the degree where they're now pushing the creation of their own private MLSs, right?
Yep.
How are they going to bring on fair business practices when they tell an agent they're not going to pay commission, but this agent from my office is bringing the buyer, why don't we pay him commission? Like, how are they going to regulate this? This is a hot mess.
I have to get going, but couldn't we just have, like, this might get, I don't know, couldn't you have like an addendum, like an attachment to the MLS that just is seen by only realtors, like, and that says, hey, we're doing this for buyer's agents?
I don't know, but you said you have to go. So
I do. I really do.
Let's plan the next rooms. And just so all y'all know, tomorrow in the mortgage syndicate, Anna is going to go toe for toe and pass out I told you so's to everybody who told her that we were not going to have 6 a.m. bright and early Eastern Standard Time at the mortgage syndicate.
All right, you guys are still in the mortgage syndicate.
I don't even know if I can be there tomorrow morning, but I'm going to do my very best. But Diana, I have about a half hour, so I'm going to jump into the transparent agent. If anyone else wants to join.
Let's go, David. See you soon.
All right, you guys. Hey, it's been fun.
Thanks for the space.
Been fun. Good seeing you guys.
I had fun agreeing with you, David. Thank you.
Let's get connected on Spaces X. And also, hey, for some of you guys, you really need to jump into that challenge starting tomorrow and figure out your listings. And it's a cool opportunity. So I just gave you an opportunity. You can try it out the first day for free without paying. And then if you see enough value, pay after. So if you want to take advantage of that, send me a direct message. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Peace. All right, you guys here over on Twitter. Oh, buyer's agent should accept the fee being offered by the seller. There is no fee being offered by the seller anymore, my friend. But yes, it's changing. So appreciate that comment, JWH. Appreciate that. Listen, guys, if you're still here on Twitter, we are doing an 8-day challenge starting tomorrow. Great opportunity. It's right there on the tag, davidihill.com/challenge. I'll make the same offer to you. If anybody wants to join the challenge, you want to jump in, the first day is on me. You try us out for a day. If you think at the end of the day this wasn't a good investment, now you can move on with your day's training. Otherwise, you can pay $297 and get the rest of the challenge. So anyway, if anybody's interested in that, send me a message. We start literally tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time, so you still have some time. That said, appreciate y'all. Peace. Gotta go.